This graph shows the temperature on a day in July. What is the temperature at 2 p.m? So we have the time at the bottom of our line graph, so we can find 2 p.m. And then if we draw a line straight up to where it hits the line on the line graph and then draw a line straight across, we can see that it's just under 30 degrees. But the line is very, very close to 30, so I would estimate that it's 29.5 degrees. You get the mark for any answer between 29 and 29.9. Now, for how many hours is the temperature above 25 degrees? So we have the temperature in degrees on this side, so we can find 25 and draw a line across. We can see that this point here, where the line we've drawn meets the line on our graph, is when the temperature first goes above 25, and we can see that that's 12 o'clock. Now the temperature stays above 25 until this time, and if we draw a line down, we can see that that's 4 o'clock. So that means the temperature is above 25 degrees for 4 hours. It's above that temperature from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Here are two thermometers. They show two different temperatures. What is the difference between the two temperatures? So if we look at this thermometer here, we have 13, because each line is an increase of 1 degree and it's 3 above 10, so that's 13. And here on this thermometer, we can see that our arrow is pointing right at -5. So we need to find the difference between -5 and 13. If we start at -5, adding 5 will take us to 0, and then from 0 to get to 13, we just need to add 13. So to get from -5 to 13, we added 5, then added 13. So that's adding 18 altogether, which means the difference is 18 degrees. If you're finding the difference between a positive and a negative number, what you can do is just ignore any negative signs and add up the numbers that you have. So 13 plus 5 is 18, so the difference is 18 degrees. Draw in the reflection of the shape in the mirror line. So the way to reflect a shape is to dot the corners. So this point here is on the mirror line, so it will be on the mirror line in our reflection as well. This point here, we go 1, 2, 3, 4 dots to the right, so we can count 1, 2, 3, 4 dots to the left. This point here is 4 to the right, so we can count 4 to the left, and this point here is 1 to the right, so we can count 1 to the left. So now that we've dotted our corners, all we need to do is join them up and we have the reflection of our shape. The diagram shows 4 lines drawn on a square grid. The lines are AB, BC, CD and DA. Which two of the lines are parallel? So here we need to remember that parallel lines are like train tracks. They would go on forever if we extended them without ever crossing. So if we look at this line here and this line here, they're parallel because if we extended them, they would never cross. And we can see that to get from D to A, we can go across 2 and up 4, and then to get from B to C, we can go across 2 and up 4. So that shows us that we have parallel lines. So the lines are DA and BC. Now, which two of the lines are perpendicular? So perpendicular lines are like the opposite of parallel lines. Perpendicular lines mean that if we extended the lines, they would cross each other, and they would cross each other at 90 degrees, so at right angles. So we have 4 right angles here. Remember, a right angle is the same size as the corner of a piece of paper or the corner of this screen. So because these lines cross to make right angles, we know that they're perpendicular. So we have AB and then CD as our perpendicular lines. 2 two-digit numbers multiply to make 176. Write the 2 missing numbers. So here, it's useful to estimate first, so to have a guess what the numbers could be. We know that 12 times 12 is 144, but 176 is slightly greater, so perhaps the numbers that we have here are slightly greater than 12. We also know 20 times 10 will be 200. So the numbers don't have to be greater than 12, because even if one of them is 10, we still get an answer that's greater. So we can be confident, knowing this, that our tens digit of both numbers will be a 1. Now 10 can't be one of the numbers, because when you times anything by 10, you get a number with a 0 at the end, if it's a whole number. So let's try dividing 176 by 11, because if 11 is one of our numbers, the answer will be the other one. So if we don't get a remainder, we'll have our answer. We can use short division, and 176 divided by 11 is 16. So that means that 16 times 11 is 176. So we have our numbers. And we can write these, of course, in either order, either way round, because with multiplication, order doesn't matter. So to solve this question, we estimated first, and then, because it was a missing number multiplication, we divided, and that gave us our answer because we got a number that didn't have a remainder. A shape has 4 right angles. It has 4 sides which are not all the same length. Write the name of this shape. So remember, a right angle is like the corner of a piece of paper or the corner of this screen. We know that squares and rectangles have 4 right angles, but because we need a shape with 4 sides which are not all the same length, the shape must be a rectangle. A rectangle has 4 right angles, and it has 2 longer sides and 2 shorter sides, so that's 4 sides which are not all the same length. Here is part of a number line. Write the number shown by the arrow. So we have 997, 998, 999. So next we have 1000, because it's going up in ones, but we already have 9 ones and 9 tens and 9 hundreds. So we have 1000 and then 1001. But we also have these smaller points marked, and they're halfway between our whole numbers. So this point here must be 997 and a half, 998 and a half, 999 and a half, and then this point here is 1000 and a half, which we can write as 1000.5, because a half is 0.5 as a decimal. That's because the first digit after the decimal point is the 10th digit, and 1/2 is the same as 5/10. But it doesn't say write your answer as a decimal, so we could have written 1000 and a half in this box and still got the mark for this question. Chen has some right-angled triangular tiles. He makes this shape with 4 of his triangular tiles and 3 square tiles. What is the perimeter of Chen's shape? So the perimeter is the total distance around the outside of the shape. Now we know that the longest length of the triangle is 13, so we can write 13 where we see the longest length of a triangle. But we also have these sides here. Now we know that this length is 5, and if we move that across, that tells us that this length of the square must be 5 as well. And with a square, all sides are the same length, so we can write 5s next to the lengths of the squares. So remember, the perimeter is the total distance, and we have 4 distances of 5 centimetres, so that's 20 altogether, and we have 4 distances of 13 centimetres, and 4 times 13 is 52. Now the perimeter will be the total distance, so if we add those numbers, we get 72 centimetres as our perimeter. Here is a centimetre square grid. On the grid, draw a shape which has a perimeter of 10 centimetres. So we just need to remember that the perimeter is the distance around the outside of a shape. So we could draw a rectangle like this, with a length of 4 squares and a width of 1 square, because 4 plus 1 plus 4 plus 1 is 10. So this shape has a perimeter of 10 centimetres. Or we could draw a rectangle like this, because 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 is 10 as well. So as long as we have a shape where, when you count the squares on the outside of a shape, you get 10, you have a shape with a perimeter of 10 centimetres. Alfie has 2 sticks. He puts them end to end. One stick is 10 centimetres longer than the other stick. How long are the 2 sticks? Well, if we use a bar model, we can draw a bar to show the longer and the shorter stick. Now we know that it's 80 centimetres altogether, but the longer stick is 10 centimetres more than the shorter stick. So it's the same length as the shorter stick plus another 10 centimetres. So here we can see that 80 minus 10 is 70, so these 2 bars together will have a total of 70. So to find the value of each bar, we can divide 70 by 2, and that gives us 35. So for the longer stick, we have 35 plus 10, so that's 45 centimetres, and for the shorter stick, we have 35 centimetres. And that makes sense because 45 is 10 more than 35, and 35 plus 45 is 80 altogether.